Hello everyone, welcome to Anime Tales. The name of the anime is in the description.
The story begins when our main protagonist, called Ikta Solork, and his childhood friend, called Yatori Igsum, are on their way to board the ship taking them to the venue of the military academy exam. For Yatori to come out on top, Ikta agrees to take the exam with her so he can remove any hindrance on her part, and in exchange, she promises him a peaceful job as a librarian. At the ship, they meet with Harum Becker, who has a water spirit named Mill as a partner, and Matthew Tetrich, who is accompanied by his wind spirit called Sue. Harum asks about Ikta's family, but he tells her he isn't a noble, but an orphan. He tries to use the opportunity to hit on her but is stopped by Yatori. Another member enters the room and introduces himself as Torwe, also with a wind spirit called Safi. Later, the group plays a game of military chess and Ikta explains to Torwe that one doesn't necessarily have to be good at military chess to become a good general. They are interrupted by the rocking of the ship, which turns off the lights. The storm is so intense that they have to escape using a lifeboat. However, a girl falls off the main ship. Ikta orders his partner to create a light beam, so he dives into the sea to save her before she drowns. The girl turns out to be the third princess of the Katjvarna Empire, called Chamel. Yatori explains that they have been washed off on an island. However, Ikta and Torwe discover that they are in the Kioka Republic, which is enemy territory. Ikta explains to the group their current options, which are to surrender themselves or break through the border back to their home. Princess Chamel refuses the idea of being taken prisoner, but is shut up by Ikta, who tells her to be realistic. Yatori attacks him for being hostile to the princess and is sent out. At night, the princess tries to relieve herself but encounters enemy soldiers. But as she moves to surrender, Ikta comes out to divert their attention. He tells them he wants to seek asylum with them, so they let their guard down. Then Ikta gives the signal and the group launches an assault on the enemy. Ikta gets information from an injured enemy before he dies from blood loss. He moves to take the soul stones of the partners of the dead soldiers, promising to regenerate them as is the custom. After the battle, Torwe feels down because he missed his target despite being a sniper, so Yatori tells him to man up to his mistakes and understand his own strength and weakness. Ikta and the party plot their escape using the enemy's airship called a blimp. Ikta comes up with a plan that utilizes the blimp and they succeed in returning safely to their side of the border. They arrive safely with the princess and are treated well for their nightly achievement. Ikta is woken up with the news of the fall of the eastern region. He gets a flashback, where he warns the general in charge of the region about his imminent defeat, but he doesn't listen. The group of 5 is invited to get an audience with the emperor. He offers to grant any of their wishes as a reward for saving his daughter. The emperor bestows on them the title of Imperial Knight, but Ikta isn't moved by the honor. He has his mistrusts about the military, and the princess confesses to using their award to play politics. She then reveals that Ikta's real name is Ikta Sankre, the son of General Bada Sankre, who died many years ago. She talks about how a doctor, called Anrai Khan, became his foster parent, and begins talking about his mother's origin. But Ikta attacks her in anger, threatening to snap her neck if she says one more word. Ikta congratulates Yatori for gaining an achievement beyond what they originally planned for the exams. He expressed displeasure, saying he had become 3 of the things he never wanted to become: a noble, a soldier, and a hero. Ikta and his group are accepted into the Empire's central base's high-level officers' school, along with Princess Chamel. They start off with endurance training. However, Ikta is too lazy to keep up. While resting, they are harassed by a group who throw a centipede in Ikta's food, but he bangs the head with a rock before swallowing it raw. During classes, Ikta and Chamel converse using their notes, but their conversation is disrupted by questions from the lecturer. Ikta answers the question brilliantly and earned applause from his comrades. The next day after training, Torwe and Matthew encounter Torwe's brothers, Sari-Haslag and Sushiraf-Ramian. They bully him in front of Matthew, but they are interrupted by Ikta, who mocks them and drops a centipede on Sari-Haslag's face. Ikta's provocation is met with a terrible beating until Yatori steps in to handle the bullies. The Ramian brothers stop after seeing the princess. 3 months later, Yatori and her 4 friends are assigned a platoon of Imperial soldiers. On Ikta's platoon, he is met by a major. When he asks her name, she reminds him this wasn't their first meeting. She introduces herself as Sergeant Major Suya Mitkalif, the daughter of a woman Ikta had an affair with 2 years ago. Ikta's platoon, on hearing of his past, distracts him, so the Ramian brothers decide to take advantage. Matthew then comes bearing the news of a mock battle between 6 platoons. On one side there will be Ikta, Torwe, and Matthew, and on the other side there will be Yatori, Sari-Haslag, and Sushiraf. Although Ikta doesn't seem too concerned about the outcome of the battle, he goes to meet Sergeant Suya and asks if it was because he slept with her mother that makes her ignore his command. She tells him she doesn't deem him fit to lead the platoon because his physical status is below average. Ikta tells her he'll help them win the mock battle to prove his worth. All groups move to the designated area for the battle. Ikta takes command of his unit. He orders them to leave behind their baggage, but Sergeant Suya opposes it, so he explains that it is part of his plan to her. The Ramin brothers group along with Yatori's, arrive at the spot for the battle, but Yatori tells them that Ikta had made camp on the other side of the river. The group prepares to quickly head to the river where Ikta's party is lying in wait. They arrive at the new battle spot. Both groups are separated by a river. Sari-Haslag notices a movement from the enemy squad, so he sends Yatori to go intercept them. Yatori, who is cautious of Ikta, questions her leader's orders, but she is silenced. Yatori's squad arrives upriver, but they are quickly attacked by Torway's squad, who immediately alerts the main unit. Ikta begins his attack by running over the river because they had made an underwater bridge beforehand. They succeed in launching a sudden attack that confuses the enemy. Sari-Haslag is attacked but is rescued by Yatori, who arrives in the nick of time. Ikta, on seeing Yatori's return to the battlefield, orders a retreat, and the battle is halted for a while, and the groups take a moment to rest. An angry Sari-Haslag moves for a pincer attack by hiding in the forest awaiting Ikta's unit. An hour later, Ikta doesn't appear anywhere in sight. A scout arrives to report that Ikta's group has sealed the north exit of the forest. It dawns on Sari-Haslag that Ikta has succeeded in cutting off their supply route, so he abandons his original plan and switches to a direct attack approach. The two groups prepare to engage, but Sari-Haslag is sniped from afar by Torway. The battle begins, but there's little Yatori can do before the battle is over. Ikta lectures some of his men who broke formation. He tells them his squad does not require heroes. He makes an appealing speech explaining that those who fight with him get to enjoy the privilege of taking things easy. On hearing this, everyone cheers his name. In the west part of the forest, the princess is kidnapped by her guards. As they move, they're intercepted by Yatori's squad. The soldiers explain that they plan to kill the princess to avenge the death of their commander, who died on the Eastern Front due to the royal family's politics. Yatori is pinned down, but her reinforcement provides support, allowing her to decimate all of the enemies on her own. Ikta arrives at the scene. He tries to cheer up Yatori and the princess, who are covered in blood. Some days later, Yatori ponders on the previous battle. We're shown memories of her younger self parting with her father to train in Ikta's father's garrison. Here she meets Ikta. She is introduced to a scientist who explains his concept to her. Ikta and Yatori have fun playing pranks on people together. He takes Yatori to his house where they meet his mother. They are joined shortly by his dad and they have a family dinner together. Later, they tag along with two scientists during an exploration where they are left behind in a shed alone. Ikta goofs around, but he encounters a wolf. However, he is saved by Yatori. They decide to make a plan to defeat the hungry wolves together. At night, they attack the wolves using any available tools, but the wolves outsmart them, so they are forced to hide. They burn the shed to trap the wolves, but some are able to escape. The surviving wolves halt their attack to protect their puppy. Torway practices his long-range shots. He ponders on how Ikta knew how to bring out the best in him. In the morning, Torway and Matthew talk about their assignment to the north. Matthew complains about the Sinek people that occupy the region. Ikta cuts in. He tells them he once visited the place and that they had very beautiful and strong women who ran their matriarchal society. Their conversation is interrupted by the girls. Ikta uses the opportunity to hit on Harom again, but Yatori strikes him. They are welcomed at the northern garrison by General Safida. Later, they are hosted at a feast. Here, Ikta meets with his new instructor, First Lieutenant Senpai Sazalov. Also, Yatori is called out by a platoon commander called Dankan Harganska, who requests for a duel. As they fight, Ikta explains to the princess that the duel is simply a farce to maintain order. The next day, Lieutenant Sazalov leads the group around the area as part of a training exercise, but in reality, it is simply an act to intimidate the Sinek people. He notices Ikta's absence. Ikta comes to the aid of a female officer being bullied. She introduces herself as Private Kana Temuri, and Ikta uses the opportunity to flirt with her. He is caught by Lieutenant Sazalov and dragged away to be locked up for 3 days. Ikta flees into the prison. Here he discovers captured spirits taken from the Sineks. Sazalov tells him that the act was a direct order from the general. Ikta joins the group looking half dead after finally being released from prison. Later, they are made to escort wagons going to deliver supplies to the locals. Ikta pops out of a wagon and takes Kana to town. In town, Kana inquires from him about the Sinek religion, which doesn't have any reference to Alderamin, who is considered God. Ikta lets her state her hypothesis and is impressed by her idea. At the other end, Major Tok is met with a hostile force, and Yatori arrives late at the scene and witnesses his death. But the group withdraws after Yatori strikes a man down and she immediately goes after them. Yatori leads a group in pursuit, but she halts upon discovering an ambush. The Sinek chieftain tells her the army stole their spirits, which they call Haashiku. The Sinek chieftain, called Nanaku Dero, then declares war on the military. However, this is the excuse the general needed to purge their entire tribe. As the garrison prepares for war, the princess is sent away to another garrison. Ikta and the others are on standby as the battle begins in earnest. Ikta's squad supplies jackets to the soldiers who are experiencing the severe cold up in the mountains. After the delivery, they are summoned to a meeting where they are assigned to deliver supplies to the front line. Here Ikta meets with Harum, who is with the medic unit, and as they talk, the enemy launches a night attack. Ikta and the others assemble their platoon in case the defense line is bridged. They prepare an ambush that the enemy falls into. Their coordinated attacks successfully eliminate the enemies without any casualties. Kana's unit is completely surrounded. They fall for the enemy's trap by using an abandoned village their base for the night. Ikta's group arrives and discovers the enemy on the base they are supposed to deliver supplies to. He tells the lieutenant in charge to allow him along with his friends to take the base back in an hour. As the enemy prepares to engage, Torway's unit snipes them one after the other from afar. The rest of the group charge in and successfully take back the base. Ikta tells them that Dr. Anarai invented the air rifle. As they converse, they receive a request for aid in the front lines, so Ikta takes command. They head to provide reinforcement, but he tells them they're to make camp for 2 days. Everyone is shocked on hearing his orders, so he explains that they need to adapt to the high altitude of the mountain. After 2 days, they arrive but are too late. Everyone is already dead. Ikta notices the body of Kana and is saddened by his decision to wait. Ikta's group is sent to the front lines, where they meet with now Captain Sazalov, who explains the situation of the battle. He combines all the platoons under Ikta's command and orders them to burn the villagers' homes without killing them. The villagers are relocated to another location. Several days later, the general gives a speech to mark the final stage of the war. The army advances through a narrow canyon. They notice the danger of the position, so Ikta suggests to Captain Sazalov to appeal to the general in order to prepare shields in case of an attack. This would also mean getting off his horse. Ikta's group thanks the captain for agreeing to his suggestion. Shortly after, they are attacked from above by the Sinek people. From the other side came a simultaneous attack. Ikta saves Harum from an enemy attack but is then rescued by Officer Dankun. The battle continues as the Yatori and the Sinek chief engage in a fierce battle. At the same time, a new group of enemies arrive from below. Yatori manages to defeat the Sinek chief but is distracted as Dankun is struck down, allowing for the chief's escape. As she flees home, she is shocked to see her village on fire. We're shown flashbacks of Ikta's memory with a girl from the village. The chieftain rushes back to her burning village to discover that her family has been slaughtered by rampaging soldiers. She engages them in battle but is overwhelmed by injury and their numbers. Ikta begs the captain to allow him to handle the soldiers. He encounters some soldiers trying to have their way with the chief, who he recognizes as Nana. Later, Ikta tells his comrades that the last enemy that appeared on the battlefield was Kala Karm, a special squad from the Kioka Empire. Just then, an inspection team appeared in the unit claiming to investigate spirit abuse. As they leave, Ikta's squad is asked to chase them, but they soon discover that the Holy Army of Aldera are coming to attack. They meet to discuss a strategy of retreat. Ikta's unit comes up with a plan to delay the enemy, but it would involve the Sinek people. Ikta apologizes to Nana, but she doesn't see the point. So he cuts off his fingers as a way of apology, and he properly introduces himself to her as her childhood friend. He tells her the Aldera nation wants to wipe both of their groups out in the name of saving spirits. He explains to her that joining forces is the only way out, so she agrees to cooperate. Ikta's units are assembled. Here they are given new ranks. Ikta suggests that Matthew and Harum pull out to the rear out of consideration. Matthew is pissed on hearing this and asks if he had ever slowed the group down in any battle. Ikta feels guilty and takes back his words. Ikta formulates a plan and sets the forest on fire. Shortly after, the enemy makes their move by putting up a bigger fire. Yatori tells the group that the enemy has a shrewd tactician like Ikta with them. At the enemy base, Jean Alkanix, who is called the Unsleeping Officer, is also wary of his unseen foe Ikta. Ikta continues making arrangements to delay the enemy for as long as possible. At night, the battle begins. Jean succeed in drawing out Nana and her men before attacking with their air rifles. They continue to dominate the battle while Ikta racks his head for a plan. He decides to attack the enemy head-on. After saving the Sinek, they take a full retreat by setting the barricade on fire. After the retreat, Sergeant Suya confronts Ikta for choosing to rescue the Sinek and eventually making the platoon incur heavy casualties. Yatori steps in. She lectures her on mixing personal feelings with military orders. The next day, Jean receives info from the Kala Karm about Yatori's swordplay. Jean has ordered a split unit up the mountain, so Captain Sazalov volunteers to intercept them by the bypass. Ikta agrees with the plan but tells Torway to join in with his air rifle unit. Jean observes the battlefield with a blimp. Ikta urges his unit to focus on making a new fire and repelling the enemy using a mobile defense strategy for another 7 days. On the 3rd day, the enemy begins their attack. At the bypass, the Kala Karm prepares for a surprise attack, but Torway's unit anticipated this thanks to orders from Ikta. They completely annihilate the Kala Karm. It's the 6th day, with Jean in charge. His forces rain cannons on the mobile fortress. He then leads his unit into an all-out attack. Ikta tries to remedy the situation, so he orders Matthew to continue with the mobile fortress strategy for another 2 days. He then heads out along with Yatori and Nana. Jean and his forces arrive where Ikta has positioned himself. Before the enemy attacks, Ikta and his men spring up from underneath them to nullify the offensive power of their air rifles. In the heat of the battle, Jean notices a negotiation flag. In the chaos, he gives in and others a ceasefire in time. The two parties meet to negotiate. Jean proposes a full surrender, but Ikta refuses. Ikta tells him that despite their numbers, their victory isn't assured. Jean takes it as a bluff, but Ikta cuts him short. He then orders his spirit to create a beam of light on Jean. He tells him that Torway, who has an air rifle, can shoot him down anytime. Jean, who treasures his life, agrees to retreat. As Jean retreats, Ikta leaves him with these parting words: "All heroes die of overwork." At the city, Ikta and his unit have successfully retreated and Princess Chamel welcomes them. 1 month later, General Safada is demoted to the rank of private and ordered to be executed for his actions. That night, Princess Chamel summons Ikta. She tells him to rise to the highest rank in the military so he can change the corrupt country from within. When he asks how, she tells him he'll have to lose a war. The war with the Kioka Empire.
This anime ends here. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, hit the notification button so you won't miss our latest videos, and let us know what you think of the anime in the comment below.